Hello, TBC News viewer and TBC Global follower. We are in Dodoma because we have been granted an exclusive interview with the Director General of the International Organization for Migration. She has been here in Tanzania for some time. As we understand, she has met the President of the United Republic of Tanzania just yesterday. And the talks that were held pretty much aligned the IOM priorities with Tanzania's DIDA 2050. And today she is in Dodoma and she eyewitnessed the transition or the handover of the Regional Ministerial Forum for Migration from Uganda to Tanzania. Amy Pope, welcome to TBC News and TBC Global.
Great to be here.
These two platforms are the English platforms for the national broadcaster TBC here in Tanzania, and we are very much grateful for granting us this exclusive interview.
It's my pleasure.
Great. When we talk about migration and when we talk about migrants, especially at this particular time, we understand and we heard your speech, very positive, very hopeful that things are going to work for the better on the area of migration in years to come across the region, across the continent, across the globe as well. But some of the people, they do have mixed feelings about migrants and migration as well. In Africa, like let's say here in Tanzania, we used to hear that one across the continent, the other continents. But recently we have been seeing things spilling over all over Africa as well. We're not going to say what happened in South Africa. How hopeful are you that things are doing well in terms of statistics, in terms of the numbers, in terms of the data, in terms of how the labor migration, labor mobility, that will yield positive results in the future?
So let's start with the idea that humans have been moving since the beginning of time. Without migration, we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't have the amazing innovations, development that we have now across the world. The issue we see play out across communities here, but also everywhere that I visited, is when governments don't have ways of managing migration. So I think we hear from private sector actors, we hear from communities, we hear from religious institutions. Movement of people can be good, it can be positive, it can fuel development, it can fuel innovation. We all know it brings in great food from around the world. But when it's done in a way that communities can plan for it, governments can work together, they can anticipate the pressures on their own host communities and respond to it. So that's really what these conversations with the government has been about over the last few days. How can we work with them to turn migration into a tool for development and growth rather than just reacting to the movement of people without strategy?
You have this strategy of coming up with the Migration Ministerial Forum for Migration. How is it working positively on that particular plan?
So let's take a look at labor mobility from the region. Right now, we're seeing more and more people from East Africa go and take jobs around the world. For example, nurses and doctors are being recruited to work everywhere. We're seeing more and more East Africans go to the Gulf to work across a wide range of sectors. When governments can work together, they can advocate for stronger labor protections. They can advocate for protections for their people if they get into a bad situation or they're being exploited. They can ensure that before people go, they have the information they need. So this kind of exchange of best practices, information, even negotiations between governments makes the collective stronger.
Let's talk about shaping migration policy across East and Southern Africa. We have witnessed today Tanzania taking over the chairmanship of the Ministerial Forum for Migration. How do you think Tanzania can play the right role in shaping migration policy across East and Central Africa?
Tanzania is in a very strong position. First of all, it is a stable country. It is experiencing strong economic growth. You have a president with an ambitious agenda to advance the country's economy and to advance opportunities for young people. It's also right in the heart of movements of people. You have people who are moving south, you have people who are moving north, you have people who are coming here to Tanzania. You also have people who are going home. So people, the government of Tanzania, the people of Tanzania, they know what this issue is. They know where the pain points are. They know where the opportunities are. So that puts Tanzania in a fantastically strong position to bring together other governments to advocate for policies and best practices that will benefit all people. And that's what we're excited about.
And you as IOM, how are you ready to support those
We have been
initiatives?
working with the government here for a couple of decades now, and everything from when the people of Burundi came here seeking safety, seeking support, then to helping them go home again and be reintegrated back at home. So we have a long-standing relationship. It's one that's been built on trust. It's one that's been built on very practical outputs, engagement, support. So at this moment that Tanzania is pivoting to almost a new frontier, we're here to stand with the people of Tanzania, the government, to use this issue of migration in ways that benefit society.
Yeah, let's talk about the issue that I think a lot of people are talking about, especially on the social media platforms, regarding young people who are looking for greener pastures. Some of them will be lured to move to other countries, like Arab countries or European countries, expecting that things will work for them. Sometimes it doesn't work. How IOM with other responsible organizations, you can ensure that these kind of migration that we cannot actually stop at works in an orderly but also humane way and free of exploitation and trafficking.
So it starts with facilitating safe and regular pathways. This is one of our 3 strategic objectives. It means that when people can move safely, when they can move with the proper visas, when they have wage protections, when the government knows who they are, and they're not moving anonymously through the black market, they're more likely to succeed. So we have been working with governments all across the world to identify what are their labor market gaps, and then to help them figure out ways to attract the talent to fill those gaps. Now, across the continent, we're seeing lots and lots of young people. It's the youngest continent of the world. And we go to places like Europe, parts of Asia, parts of North America. The population is aging. They simply do not have the workforce they need to continue to produce the way they've produced. So finding ways for people to move safely, legally, ensuring that they're not putting their life savings in the hands of a smuggler or a trafficker, that's the way that we create something good at this moment in time.
And why do you think some of the young people do not want to follow the legal ways in such a way that everything becomes smooth and works for them?
Simply, they're not available. There are a couple of clear issues we see. Many governments around the world have not yet modernized their immigration systems. They haven't done the work of analyzing where are their labor market gaps and how do we fill them in a safe and legal way. Likewise, many of the people around the world who would want to take those jobs can't find the information about those jobs. Instead, they become very vulnerable to false promises. We have seen a real increase in the number of people who are being lured into call center scams in places in Asia. And communities in East Africa have been a big target because many of them speak English. So the young people think they're going for a job. They then go to a place in a remote location. Their passports are taken. They're not being paid fairly. And all of a sudden, they find themselves in a situation of trafficking. So ensuring that systems exist where people can verify the job, go with proper identification, make sure their government knows where they are if they need help, that's the way we're going to address it.
This could be a new term in town, the climate-related mobility. We never thought that we're going to be talking about climate change, that we're talking about it now. It's happening across Africa, it's happening in Europe as well. We see the wildfires. Things have to change, people have to migrate. What trend do you see as IOM, but also for a country like Tanzania, how could it prepare for such circumstances that sometimes becomes unavoidable?
So climate-related displacement is our highest growing, our fastest growing, highest number of displacement in the world right now. And you can see it, right? If the area around you has gone up in flames, you simply can't stay there. And often it takes years to rebuild. There is a drought, and people who relied on the land, farmers can no longer farm, can't feed their children, can't make a living. they move. If there are floods, you just simply can't stay home. And so you can quickly see around the world how this is driving more and more people to move. Now, many communities across this continent are extremely vulnerable. One of the reasons that they just don't have the insurance, the resilience. Governments don't have necessarily the capacity to help people recover quickly when the storms hit. So the first and foremost is working with governments to understand what are their biggest risks. You look here in Tanzania, there's risks of flood, there's drought, there's land degradation. All of this will cause people to move. So in the first instance, knowing what those pressures are and then working with communities to address them. In some cases, we've been able to enable a community to stay longer, providing them access to better water systems or better farming. In some cases, it's just not possible. The house is gone because of flood. So then working with them to relocate in a safer way, in a more planned way. And across the board, we see millions and millions of people being impacted by a changing climate. So our message to all governments is let's not wait until the disaster strikes. Let's do the work now, work with communities now, figure out how to build resilience and how to ensure that if it strikes, when it strikes, we have a plan to respond.
Let's talk about the overall migration challenge. Most of the people, they see it as a button, as a big challenge. We have seen issue of migration determining which political party will rule, which political party will go out. Some of the politicians, they go down just because of the issues to do with migration. How do you think, with all these circumstances that we have been talking about, we can totally change the issue of migration and people's perception as well, from being a burden, from being a challenge, to a positive driver for economic change, for economic growth, especially across Africa, across Europe, any place that will need these migrant workers?
Well, some of it is just telling the stories, because the media attention is often on the disaster. People who are coming across the sea, people who are losing their lives, people who are at the extreme point of vulnerability. But what we see every single day is that once migrants have stabilized, if they have access to school, if they have access to jobs, if they have access to shelter, they actually start to generate growth. I had a chance to meet some Syrians who were in Turkey just under 2 weeks ago. And those communities had invested, they had created businesses, and as their businesses grew, they hired more and more. They were generating prosperity, not just for other migrants, but for the community as a whole. So we're looking at ways to engage with migrants that enable them to contribute to economies, contribute to society, not just provide them with the most basic humanitarian assistance. We really want to engage so they can be transformative. And I believe, because I've seen it play out all over the world, when people see that in real life, if you're a business owner and you are able to hire migrants and they're bringing the best into your business, that's how you change minds. That's how you really change the future.
Great. We have seen about some of the migrants who are in vulnerable situations, and Tanzania has been used as the place that transit and host as well some of the migrants. What kind of support do you have for this kind of group of people?
So we often are helping people get home. If they end up in Tanzania and they end up stranded, in some cases they have been intercepted by the national authorities. They have been, they're no longer able to continue wherever they were going. So we help them go get back home. In other cases, we're working with the government to help improve border management, identification of people, ensuring that when people are coming, if they don't have their proper papers, we can help them connect with their consulates or their governments back home so they can get those papers. So much of it is just the nuts and bolts of how people move and how we can respond to whatever the government needs at that point in time. But the bottom line is that unless we look at what's driving people to move in the first instance, unless we address those pressures, people will move. So figuring out from the get-go, how do we engage earlier? So this is why the climate issue is so important. We know some communities are going to be impacted by drought. So let's not wait for people to pick up and leave. Let's engage with them earlier.